Good morning. Welcome to the Minnesota Crossroads Career Network webinar this morning. We're going to wait a minute or two here for people to start rolling in. But glad you can be able to join us. We'll wait as people continue to roll in here this morning and get started here shortly. I'm always gratified to see that we have people join us from all over the country, which is pretty amazing to me. We're local here in the Minneapolis, Minnesota area, but we have people that join us. Actually, we've had people that have joined us from around the world at different times, from Europe and Africa and Australia. And I don't know what time zones they're in, but I'm amazed that they have joined us on previous webinars. Glad to have you guys start rolling in here. Just wait another minute or two and we'll get started shortly. We have a lineup of information and presenters for you. You're here primarily to see John Arms, who is going to be talking about fractional careers, and I'm really glad to have him. And I know that you'll get a lot of great information out of that. Just wait a little bit more. Well, I'll get started here and we'll have other people that join us. My name is Harry Erdschl. I lead Minnesota Crossroads Career Network, and I'm really glad to be able to be here this morning and have you join us. We have, as I mentioned, a number of things for you this morning. I've got a little bit of a short intro, just so you know the agenda this morning. A short intro and something to share, and then we've got a brief video by Kurt Warner, the MVP of the Super Bowl in the past, and a message from him. And then what you're here for primarily is to see John Arms, who will talk about fractional careers and whether that makes sense for you and what that looks like. And so I'm glad to have John. He's a popular speaker, but with tremendous information, and really has helped a lot of people see their careers in a different light and what's possible for them. And I'm always glad to see creative ideas. Part of our hope with Crossroads, though, is that along with helping people succeed in their job search, we also talk about bigger issues and point people to the hope and encouragement of Jesus Christ. In that light, we want to look and see what the Bible actually says about life. A verse that gets quoted often says, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." And I think it's too often been taken out of context. People quote it as if it means that through Christ, we can leap tall buildings in a single bound. But then they look at their life or their circumstances they're in and wonder, why isn't this working for me? They trust God, but don't seem to be accomplishing what they want. That can be discouraging. The context of that verse, however, is talking about when we're going through all kinds of difficulties, when we don't seem to be able to go on. That's that we can get through it, not by our own strength, but through the strength that God provides, because he's always there with us when we trust him. He never promises to give us everything we want. He does promise to provide for our needs. Sometimes it's easy to confuse our wants and our needs, but he does promise that he'll never leave us and never forsake us, that he'll provide the strength and he'll carry us through those times we can't endure on our own when we trust him. Your current circumstances may be tough, but you can grow and learn and make it through this through his strength. My hope is that it gives you hope in whatever situation you're in. Job search can be tough. It can be an emotional roller coaster, and sometimes it's draining and you feel like, how am I going to make it through or do the things I need to do? But trust in God and lean on him for that strength to get through whatever your challenges are. Let me open us in a word of prayer, and then we'll get going on the rest of the content this morning. Lord, I'm grateful for those that can join us this morning, even though we're just virtual, we're not seeing each other face to face, but we pray that you use this time for your purposes, that everyone hears something today that gives them hope and encouragement and ideas and things that they can use in their circumstances. Father, you know each of our circumstances better than we understand them ourselves. And we just pray that you open our eyes to see things as you see them and give us the direction and wisdom to make the choices we need to make. Thank you, Lord, for all these things. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. And with that, let me share my screen. And I've got a video by Kurt Warner. If you're not aware, there was a film that came out, I can't remember if it was late last year or early this year, about his life and progression to play in the NFL and ultimately win 2 Super Bowls, or play in the, win a Super Bowl. Yeah, I think he won 2. I'm sorry, but he played for the St. Louis Rams. And so many times we think of people's careers or their success as just a straight line from going from nothing to something great. And he, like so many other people, had serious ups and downs, and thought he was out and done, and came back. And he then reached this pinnacle of success and thought he's set for a long time, and 2 years later he ends up being cut. And so you think life throws all kinds of curveballs at us and requires us to make different decisions and change direction sometimes. And how we think about those changes and where we get our wisdom and what we lean on is important. So let me share Kurt's video here.
So I met my wife at a country music bar. Got a chance to kind of introduce myself, and she was very open and out front with me. And before she left for that night, she just said, "Hey, I want you to know, I'm a divorced mother of 2. So if I never see you again, I completely understand." And with that, she got in her car and she drove away. And here's this college kid kind of trying to wrestle with all this, like, okay, I never saw that coming. Is this something I want to pursue? Can I just walk away simply because she told me a couple things about herself that I didn't expect? What do I do with that? Through some friends, I got her address. I walked over to her house the next morning, knocked on her door, didn't have her number, wasn't able to tell her I was coming, knocked on her door, and she opened the door kind of like, "Okay, what are you doing here? How did you get my address? Who are you? Are you stalking me?" And for me, it was just, I told her I just wanted to meet her kids. I wanted to explore all of this. And her son, Zachary, at the time, grabbed my hand and pulled me into the bathroom. And as much as I don't like country music, flipped on a radio with some country music, and we sat on the floor in the bathroom and just kind of enjoyed a moment together. And it was in that moment where I said, this is different, it's unique. I don't know if I know how to handle this, but all right, I got to give this a shot. We laughed that it was really the kids that brought us together. It was a connection that I had with Zachary, and the way that I fell in love. We always joke in our house that I fell in love with the kids first. And the connection there, me seeing her as a mother, her seeing me in that role, stepping in and embracing the kids, was really what connected us in a really special way. And so a long 5 years later, we ended up getting married. It was a crazy love story because it was so different than anything I would have expected. And I'm fortunate that from the time that we met until now, I get to wake up every day with my best friend. I get to wake up with the person that really helped me to dive into my faith journey in a different way. So I grew up in the church, went to a Catholic school all growing up. My mom was making sure that we went to church every Sunday. I understood the stories. I understood, Jesus and how all of that worked. But it was never really personal for me until after I met my wife. When we were going out or when we were spending time together, it was either us making out or us talking about Jesus. It was one of those two things. I wanted more of the making out. She wanted to talk more about Jesus. She challenged me early and often in our relationship about what I believed and why I believed it. I think before that, I always felt faith was kind of, well, God was out there, and whenever I needed him, he was like my spare tire, that when I get a flat, I'll go and pop the trunk and pull out the spare, and God, I need this. But you dive into the Bible and you actually start reading the Bible for the first time in that kind of context, and you start to realize, oh shoot, I had this mixed up, that God's not just here for me, that the goal is that I'm here for him. I'm here to give my life for him as Jesus did for me. And it started to become real. I started to understand and take a different perspective on what life was all about. And it took some crazy moments to really understand that. And One of those moments was when her parents were, tragically killed in a tornado. I remember how, she didn't have all the answers. She was angry, and she was willing to call out to God and ask God why and yell and scream, but never lose her faith. It was never one of those things where, oh, God, you allowed this to happen to us, so now I'm going to walk away from you. That's what a relationship is to me. It's about being able to, to disagree in moments, to be angry in moments, but not allow that to stop the relationship. And to me, that was when I kind of stepped back and go, everything that she's been talking to me about, this is what it looks like. This is what it's supposed to be. And it was in those moments where I came to realize, okay, I've never had that, and that's exactly what I want. And it was at that time where I really committed my life to Jesus. There were a number of moments in my life when I felt like, for whatever reason, people didn't believe in what I was capable of doing. The biggest low point was going from Green Bay Packer training camp. So I'm right there. I'm inches away from being able to accomplish what I've always dreamed of accomplishing. Get cut by Green Bay, and a couple weeks later find myself working in a grocery store at night, trying to figure out, how do I chase my dream? Because there's no roadmap. There's no path that's set out for those that are working in a grocery store to find themselves in the NFL. And as hard as those moments were, and as frustrating as they could be at times, I think the fortunate thing for me is, I had a great support system, but I never lost faith in who I was. There was always something internally that just said, you got this, you can do this. Even after, like when I was with the Rams and won 2 MVPs and went to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, and then 2 years later I'm cut by the team, and you just sit like, how in the world can this be happening? But I was very fortunate that, that I never really lost faith in who I was. We look back now and we go, we're so grateful that God's plan was better than our plan. Even though we didn't see it for a long time, He's always there for me no matter what the circumstances are. No matter if it's the highs, the lows, the goods and the bads, that He's with me through all of it.
Camera and mic back on. Yeah, American Underdog, as I said, I wasn't sure if it was end of last year or beginning of this year that it came out. Well, it was end of last year, came out last year, Christmas Day, but it's streaming online as well. It was in the theaters. I went to see it. It was a pretty tremendous movie about his life. I really encourage you to check it out. And, whenever you get discouraged that things have felt like they've gone backwards, a movie like that can really put things in perspective and help you see that this too shall pass, that things can improve again. And so just hope it's encouraging to you. With that, I want to introduce John Arms. I'm really glad to have him join us. He's done presentations for us in the past, and John is entertaining and a smart guy, but John has become the fractional career guru in the Twin Cities area. And if you've seen him perhaps before, there was a great Star Tribune article earlier this year that he was featured in, and talking about what it looks like to have a fractional career and how much that's been growing in terms of a real option for so many people. And so if you're considering for yourself, is this something that could work? John might have some answers for you. And so I'm really glad to have him join us. John's got a great marketing background himself, has had his own agencies, and currently works fractionally as well in marketing. And so he lives what he preaches. And I'd love that part of it. John, thanks so much. And I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Harry. Good morning, everybody. And thank you, Harry. I'm glad to be here. I hope Harry said something earlier. I hope that you do learn 1 or 2 things today. That's my goal. I educate people on fractional. So my goal is that, with the hour I have, to make it entertaining and interesting for you, but give you good nuggets that you can take forward. into your world. I'm going to press a couple buttons here, Harry, and maybe you can tell me if everything's showing up right. I hope it will. Usually it does. There's always technology, but here we go. Presenter view. There we go. All right. So, okay.
Nope, not seeing anything, John.
Yeah, that's always a thing. Yeah, it'll get. See, I would have gone right through this whole presentation without even touching more buttons. Harry. Thank God. How about now?
Perfect.
All right, there we go. All right, folks, thank you for coming and taking your time this morning. There's something that, before I get into the thing I want to talk about today, there's something that I hope you write down about yourself that Kurt Warner said. And I had to write it down. Never lose faith in who you are. That is really, really important in the world we're in today. And that's really important if you choose or pursue the fractional route. And we're going to get into a little bit. And the thing I would say about who you are, and I don't know if this was Kurt's intent, but is amazing. You know, you're here, you're alive, you're on Earth, you compete against, billions of other molecules to get here. And that in itself is a feat and amazing. I know in job transition, it doesn't feel that way, but that's actually where you have to double down and go for walks and say, yeah, I am awesome, because you are. So I just, that really rung true for me. So, okay, what I'm going to talk about is fractional. That's what I do. And the couple things here, that what you see there, there's a conference coming up at the end of October. There will be QR codes if you're interested in exploring it, but all about fractional. And we're doing it right here in the Twin Cities because, well, the Twin Cities is awesome, the best city on the planet. So why not? But what I'm going to talk about is a lot of what's going to be there. I've been giving this keynote for a while. The future is fractional. And my hope, my intent today is to open the aperture, bring the curtains back and say, why do we make such boisterous claims? Why are things going this way? What is it all about? And really kind of exposing to the world like what this is and why it's happening. So that's my intent today. It's a learning moment. And I'm going to do it in 4 chapters. The first part, I realized like we have to explain fractional. The world needs that. We have to talk about why before the what. Why are businesses choosing fractional talent like me? Why are professionals like you pursuing it? And then last, of course, is how do you become? How do you make that happen? So these are the 4 things we're going to sort of pick apart. Okay, so let's start with the basics, right? Fractional is relatively new. So let's start with, come on, button, go forward. Hold on. Oh, please. There we go. All right, we're going to start with the definition of fractional. I have learned in the last couple of years that I have to do this. It's important to kind of get grounded in there. So fractional is defined as occupying a permanent leadership seat in a business in a fraction of the time thought necessary. And when I wrote that, I thought, well, there it is. We have our definition. The whole world can go forward, right? It's all written down. It's on its way to the Webster's people. But it's not that easy. I realize I have to sort of pick that apart a little bit because even though it's written down and in a place and we don't have a thing, we have to pick it apart a little bit to gain a deeper understanding. So the important words in here. Leadership is one part of fractional. A permanent leadership seat. So here's the thing, fractionals are leaders. They tend to be over 45 years old, sometimes up to 70 and more, and they lead, they guide, they direct, they motivate, they point their clients to places they need to go and also the traps they need to avoid. They see around corners. We can do this because we've been around. Look at all this gray hair I have. There's value to that. I would say none of us fractionals are born leaders, but we're earned leaders. What I mean by that is all of you would probably have, I don't know, 30, 20, 15 years of experience underneath you. That's all leadership training, whether you call it leadership training or not. So fractionals occupy that permanent leadership seat. Okay, so that's one part. Another part, in a fraction of the time. When you are fractional, you are doing things that your client can't do well. That's why they bring you in. You're just doing it a fraction of your time. Rather than full-time in one place, you're doing it a fractional. Typically, fractionals have 3 to 4 clients at a time, maybe a project or 2. There's other dimensions to it that I'll pick apart, but it is a fraction of the time. And I often get asked, like, how can this happen? You know, we're used to the status quo is full-time. Not so much. So when somebody brings on a fractional professional, whether it's ops, IT, sales, marketing, whatever it is, they're already, it's usually the CEO or a leader ops person who's like, I'm also doing the finance, and I'm also doing the sales, and I'm also doing the this. And they're already doing it in a fraction of the time. So it kind of makes sense. Like, well, your fraction of time as a, let's say you're in sales and the owner of the business is not, your fraction of time is much more valuable than their fraction of time working on that part of the business. So the fraction of the time thought necessary is a key component here. It is not full-time work. It's permanent, but it's not full-time work, it's fraction. Now, people often ask me, like, how can you pull that off? And I'm like, well, listen, back when you were working at, you know, Fortune 500 X, how many projects did you have on your desk? How many, you know, how much stuff? It's like, oh my God, my day was broken up into 15 different fractions. So we're actually used to this model pretty well as a society. We just don't think about it this way. Well, those of us who are doing it think about it this way. So, and unless they offload, they're heading for burnout. So they need your fraction of the time. So that's part 2 of the definition. Part 3, this is the one that's kind of challenging for a lot of folks, but occupying a permanent leadership seat in the business. Permanent. This one's a little more challenging. So let's talk about it. Mind bender. People say, I thought you said permanent. What's this? Or I thought you said fractional. What's this permanent thing? There are roles in a business that no business can go without, at least not for very long, right? Like you have to have sales, you have to have operations, you have to have IT, you know, you have to have a leader. There's just seats that have to be filled, and they have to be there day in and day out. You can't just decide to have a dedicated sales effort on a Monday and stop it on a Wednesday. You'll be out of business before you even start. Same thing for IT, same thing for HR. The fits and starts, as we all know, is no way to run a business, and it will eventually kill you. So they are permanent leadership seats, meaning those gears always have to be there. But just like gears in a car, they always have to be in the engine, but they're not working 24/7. Think about your reverse on your car, right? You have to have it in a car. You can't have a car without it, but it's not always engaged. So it's permanent and it's important for leadership, but it's always there. But that's different than fractionally used. So hopefully that makes sense. This one's a little bit tougher. And certainly I'll hopefully open time after if there's questions, but that's the permanent part of the definition of fractional. And it probably makes sense to you when you think about that. Okay. Part 2. Why are businesses choosing fractional talent? Yesterday at Twin City Startup Week, I gave a presentation on that to a lot of startups to help them understand these dimensions, because everybody's trying to grasp, you know, how do I take advantage or get into this fractional thing? And I thought I'd start today as like, why are businesses, if you choose to go fractional, why are they making this decision? And I'm going to break that apart a little bit. And I'm going to use metaphors because I like metaphors. Good old Johnny Depp. So if Johnny Depp or Captain Jack Sparrow is the CEO, they're hiring fractional pros. And the question is, of course, is who's hiring these fractional pros? They're leaders. They're founders. They're visionaries. The people that hire fractional pros are people that have a ship and a compass and a vision, all that, like Captain Jack Sparrow. They realize that they have to operate on 2 basic principles. To get to the distant shore that they've identified, they know they have to stay focused on that they cannot lose sight of the distant shore, otherwise they'll be in trouble. I read a great story the other day about, or I can't remember what book it was from, but it was talking about if you are flying an airplane, and if you take your eye off the horizon, even 1 degree, if you leave from LA to New York, even 1 degree, you're gonna miss your mark by 150 miles. Even 1 degree. So having the eye on the horizon is really, really important. They know this. The people who hire fractionals know this. So they know that they can't get there alone, and they have to stay focused on that. So that's what's opened up this world of businesses that are like, I will take fractional talent, please, to help me stay focused on the vision and bring in this talent that works for us. So the other part about this is who are these people, right? So it's not Fortune 500. It's very rare, even Fortune 2000. Those are not typically hiring fractional. When you've got 10,000 employees, where's a fractional going to be, right? It doesn't really fit. It's the 33 million other businesses in the US that are trying to grow, sometimes startups, sometimes $200 million businesses, trying to move up and to the right. Those are the ones that are hiring fractional folks and using this new dimension of the economy to help them grow. So thing I like about that is, well, we know there's only 500 Fortune 500s. We know there's only 2,000 Fortune 2000s, but we know there's 33 million businesses in the US that want to grow. So those are the folks that are hiring them. Now, it's important to talk about why, other than that they can't get there alone. Staying with our Jack Sparrow-esque theme, we've got a couple people, if you've seen the movie, this kind of makes sense, right? Accepting that they can't get there alone. They let go, and they let go to Elizabeth Swan. She's gonna be operations. They let go to Mr. Gibbs. He's in charge of HR. They have to let go of unfurling the sales, actual sales, and that's what's this guy's name? Jack Turner. So the whole idea is the recognition is like this ship, this beautiful thing that they've created. Someone's got to unfurl the sails. Someone has to hold the rudder. Someone has to guide the people. And while you're the captain, you cannot do those things yourself for very long. You're going to burn yourself out. So they bring on fractional folks. They do this. I don't know where everybody comes from, but they do this in every imaginable capacity. Sales, operations, marketing, IT, legal this year has really, really come out. Finance has always been part of it. Product dev, creative people, like it continues to grow and expand as viable options for businesses to grow. So wherever you are in your skill set, there's probably several fractional roles out there for you. So they do this so they can grow. These are the people they're hiring. This is a gross picture, but it tells you some things. They do have choices to consider. Choice number one, they can continue to bootstrap. The irony is not the reason I have this here is this is actually his character name in Pirates of the Caribbean is Bootstrap Bill Turner. And I realized, like, yeah, after you bootstrap for a long time, you don't look so great. You get a little crusty and old and lose your motivation. And you can do that. You can continue to bootstrap, but there's consequences to that. So that's one of the choices is, yes, they don't have to hire fractional. They can continue to bootstrap. Often investors don't care for that because they need to see that you can let go and expand and stay on the vision and not try to hold on to everything. So, but they can continue to bootstrap. We don't want them to look like this, but that is one of their choices. Choice number two for them is, yes, they can hire somebody. They can hire somebody full-time, and that does happen. But what are the choices there? Well, oftentimes it's this. They can hire somebody young because they're on a tighter budget and they can save a lot of money, but there's some risk with that, right? When you have someone who's too young and inexperienced on the job, you can sink the ship. That can be a real problem, or get, in this case, attacked by the Kraken. So they can do that. That is something that they can do. Or they can get the experienced pro they need, but they sometimes have to sacrifice more cash than they're willing to. You folks are worth a tremendous amount of money. We all are, but the reality of a $5, $10, $20 million businesses, they just might not have the $250,000, $350,000 for the C-level person that they need, and that can sink the ship as well. So the fractional world is giving them choices. These still hiring somebody young or hiring somebody for full-time. These are the norm, as you know. This is status quo. This is the way it's been. This is just what we're comfortable with. because since 1976, this is how we run our economy. And so it's very normal. Doesn't mean it's a good, bad, or indifferent choice, but it's, you know, it's often a bad choice, but it is the reality of what businesses are trying to grow have to deal with until fractional came along. So ideally, though, it's a different world, and it's a new world. So choice number 3 for them is they could hire fractional talent. Keeping their eye on the vision of the future, having a person like you who's very smart and adept at your craft around to help them get there is an ideal scenario. Here's why it's ideal. They get all of your wisdom, guidance, experience. You've been there, done that. When Kurt Warner was saying, never lose faith in who you are, that is who you are. Your amazingness is not in your hours or in grinding out tasks, or if you've ever seen the movie The Office Space, doing the TPS reports. Your greatest skills are in your aggregated aspects of wisdom. Super valuable, right? So that's an ideal scenario. So this is choice number 3 between bootstrapping, hiring full-time, either young or old, and now they can hire fractional, and you can have that person to help them. So it's pretty smart, and this is why people are gravitating to it, because 1, they save cash. Fractionally, you're going to charge between, you know, 7 to 12 grand a month to be the fractional, you know, fill in the blank here. So it's a lot less of a cash load, but at the same time, they get the wisdom, right? That's a bargain for most businesses, most of those $33 million businesses, one in which they're willing to take. The only risk they're really facing is their discomfort with the status quo. I just think I need a full-timer because that's the way it's always done. But as the market has proven, not the case. Okay, so that is why businesses are hiring fractional pros. That is who is hiring fractional pros. So hopefully some good education for you on that. Next, why are professionals like you, like me, why are we pursuing fractional roles? What's the why in that scenario? And we're going to talk about this. It gets to be, well, my job here is to not have any judgment on things, just to sort of report the truth. As I was telling Harry, in my younger years, I was a journalist and I studied journalism, and you know, just reporting the facts as they are in the marketplace, and even the uncomfortable ones, but with good intent. So we're going to talk about why are professionals pursuing fractional roles. And one aspect of that is kind of there's a dark side and a light side to why people are pursuing this. And we're going to start with the dark side, but we're going to get to the light side. So don't worry, we'll get there yet. But on the darks, why are we pursuing it as well? The old model of how we all worked, the one that's basically been the status quo since the mid-70s, it broke, it rusted out, it deteriorated, it came to the end of its natural life cycle. That is really hard to grasp. That's something we typically resist. How can we say that? But when we unpack it and think about it, it's true. And I'm going to share some of that, why that is. So I too, you know, anybody can be skeptical. What do you mean? Our economy, the biggest economy in the world, the people like us, the labor and the workers behind it is a broken model. How can we be making gazillions of dollars? How can it be broken? Well, let's look at that and talk about that. It's not broken for everybody. All right, some charts and graphs. Why did the come to work for the company, give it your all, and it'll all work out for you in the end? Why did that break? Well, there's some data that helps us with that. Around kind of the late 70s, we got into this thing about shareholder value priority versus worker priority. And a lot of dimensions came out of that. So as you know yourself, because you've been working, you have a career, your productivity, even through the pandemic, continues to rise. And isn't that awesome? It's great. Your productivity is up and up and up, but your compensation stopped rising with it around 1979. That's about when it started. Now, some economists and people like me will probably claim, you know, the shareholder economy that was sort of brought forth by Milton Friedman and we embrace that is probably the root cause of that. But here we are, right? Your pay is going on a lower rate than your productivity. Now, certainly there's like, well, that's not fair. You know, I should be rewarded for being more productive, not the other way around. But that's where we are. So that is part of how that was the standard. It is the standard, and that gets rusty and old. So that's one part of it. Another part of it, these diverging lines, the GDP per household versus median income. So another way to sort of look at the same data is, as a country and as an economy, we're killing it. I mean, we're making more money and doing more GDP and growing exponentially at a fantastic rate. We are often called the strongest economy, even stronger than Rome. And when you think about that, like, well, man, this should be great, but look at our income line. That's us. That's you and me. Our income is not in line with where the GDP is. And again, in the somewhere in the 70s and 80s, those decoupled. And that's caused some rusting, right? We don't like it when our median household income goes down. We don't like it when we're more productive, but we're not receiving the benefit of that. That model, these are the examples of the rust that model has, or the sickness or the illness. Don't worry, it's gonna get happy in a few minutes. But it's good to just sort of expose these things and talk about them. I got a book coming out, Revolt: The Rise of Fractional and the Death of Full-Time. Some of the next few slides have some of the data that I use in it, but obviously this is a big one that we have to talk about too. Why did the status quo break? So income growth, yours and mine, for us, it has slowed since the 70s. So if you look at the money that we're making, the trend line, we should be making about $164,000 more per household than we were. That trend line stopped as we began embracing the shareholder economy, and look where we are. You're making, you know, $164,000 less than you probably should. Had we stayed on the trend from the 70s as a society, as an economy, we'd be great, right? Who wouldn't want another 164 grand in the house? We could all use that. We could all use half of that. We could all use a millionth of it, whatever. But again, it decoupled. We ran our economy in a different way. We made political, economic, and cultural decisions that moved us here. And there's an effect for that. And that's also a rusting of that model. Another piece of data on how it rusted. This is the one that hits me. This is also from Revolt. This is the one that really bothers me. Is the leading cause of death in America is heart disease. The leading cause of heart disease is stress. The leading cause of stress is work. So the status quo full-time normal literally is affecting our health negatively. It is literally killing us in a lot of ways. So that's a problem. That's a rusting of that model. When you sort of look back, you know, hindsight's great, 2020. I guess I should not have been asked to work and worked from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., come home, ate dinner, saw the kids for a few minutes, opened my laptop at 9 and worked until midnight. There really is only one place that can go, and that's a negative place, but not a sustainable model. So I'm going to watch the chat here. Oh, thanks, Harry. Not a sustainable model. And a little more evidence that there's the rusting of that, right? We all were part or have been part of the economy lately. This page shows us that we're resisting the status quo. We're sort of stepping out against it. We don't like it. We're great resonating. 11.5 million people said, that's it. I'm not going to do this. Quiet quitting, and now we've got quiet firing, and all these social and cultural activities that are happening that define how we act as a workforce are more indications that it's kind of a rusty system and it needs change. I think more recently in the news is this trending story, right? We're pretty frustrated with the status quo. This is about the UAW and the workers, but the energy behind it is about much, much more. The energy behind it also relates to those charts and graphs I shared up until now. The frustration of working so hard and too hard and not receiving the benefits of it in the status quo. So of course, naturally, we want something different. This ultimately was going to break sooner or later, right? You can't have a scenario like we just looked at and last forever. It breaks. Okay, I said there was a dark side, and I said there's a light side. But the status quo we got used to proved to be unsustainable, and it broke. It happens in economies. It happens. It's messy. It's difficult. It's the way it goes. The status quo horse got replaced by the car. The status quo, landline gave way to the cell tower. The status quo store gave way to Amazon. Whether or not these are good or bad is everybody's individual view and judgment. I have no opinion on it, but it just is. Status quos tend to crumble over time. Something else comes in and innovates and finds a better way. And that can be really, really good. And that's what fractional is. Okay, so that was tough, right? A lot of hard reality looking at our economy and not seeing something we particularly like. So I put a little slide in here where we could sort of have a little palate cleanser, a happy little puppy, and something that makes us feel a little bit more joyful. But now I'm going to talk about the light side of this other dimension on why people are choosing it. So the dark side is we were escaping and running and abandoning those aspects that eventually wore out and got rusty. But the light side is we're pursuing new paths forward that don't look at all or feel at all like what we just talked about. Happy little puppies, you can never go wrong. 3 things why we're pursuing it. Freedom, I call it FOF. Freedom, opportunity, and fulfillment. Freedom, opportunity, and fulfillment. These are the driving forces on why people like me and possibly you and hundreds of thousands of other people are pursuing this fractional route. Freedom, opportunity, and fulfillment. And I'm going to break that apart a little bit. Freedom. So what happens in fractional is things that just you're free to do now. You can be in charge of your own fate. You're not waiting for a good or bad, stock report to determine your economic or employment future. You are free to diversify your revenue streams. There's been studies on when people are stuck in a full-time job and so committed to it, you have other ideas in your world, but if they have to go through the corporate grind or killing machine, a lot of it doesn't see the light of day. And a lot of great ideas never see the light of day, and that's not good. In the fractional world, you can pursue those, and those can be revenue streams for you, whereas maybe in the corporate world, they couldn't. So that's freedom, right? We love that. Freedom to work with who you choose, not who is chosen for you. This is a big one. I'm going to choose the client I want to work with. I'm going to choose the vendor I'm going to work with. I'm going to choose to work with, be part of a community like Voyager U or whatever. And I get to choose. I have that freedom of choice, whereas those choices are often in the status quo made for us. This is the building you work at. These are the other people who share the access code. This is the physical property. This is your world. And you don't have very much choice over that. That's something you give up. But in fractional, you don't give that up. Freedom to set your own schedule. We talk about this a lot in our boot camps, is what does a fractional schedule look like? And you have freedom to set that. It does not look at all like the corporate schedule at all. Completely different. This is a whole course. It takes a while to understand it, but setting your own schedule so that it works for you as a fractional is a beautiful thing. You have the freedom to do it. You still have to be disciplined, but it's yours. And that's a beautiful thing. And then finally, going back to what old Mr. Warner said, is freedom to earn what you are worth. Never lose faith in who you are. The thing I love most about fractional is it allows you to really be the amazingness that you are and lean into that, monetize it, and allows the companies that are hiring you to take advantage of it to help them grow. It's wonderful, as opposed to, as a 55-year-old person, we all know ageism is real, right? We just know it. And it always puzzled me, right? Like, when someone's got 20, 30 years of experience and they've done so much and learned so much and succeeded and failed, like every year your value should be going up because you are more wise than the year before until you're dead. And I never understood why our status quo doesn't value and reward and operate on that operating system. It's a loss, but it's not a loss in fractional. Fractional embraces it. CEOs love having people that look like allies to them, and leaders and businesses that are off the Fortune 500. Love that. So earn what you're worth, and you're worth more than you probably think. That's another course. Okay, freedom, opportunity. You have the opportunities that maybe you didn't have before. You have the opportunity in fractional to work with 3 or 4 businesses. You have the opportunity. There's no one to tell you no on any of this stuff. You just get to choose and do it. You get the opportunity to be on a board or 2. Oftentimes, you have the opportunity to take some equity in a business you're supporting. You can start a side hustle. Half the fractionals do. The opportunity to be your own boss, and the opportunity to make great money. People often ask me 2 things: how much money can I make, and what's the new business look like? And those are part of our boot camp, but I'll sort of talk about that a little bit here. Making great money. So the norm for fractional today, post-pandemic, is clients are going to pay roughly on average about $7,000 a month for you fractionally. And it's give or take here or there. You times that by 3 or 4 clients, then you've got $21,000 a year, and then you got, or $21,000 a month, 200 and whatever, the money goes up, right? And then you start adding equity in a side hustle, and you start to make pretty good money. One of the questions is, okay, what does the new business look like for that? That is awesome, and we teach it, and it works great, but it's not what you think. It is far more giving and human stuff than it is CRMs and those sort of things. But the whole idea of making great money and having an opportunity to do so is out here for you, right? I find it sad when the status quo of raises follows below the inflation rate. How is that even okay, right? It doesn't make any sense to me. But in this world, in the fractional world, that's not your problem. So you can just add another 5-10 grand a month to your portfolio if you just by adding another client. So there's great opportunity out here. So freedom, opportunity, and at last, fulfillment. We cannot talk about fractional without talking about this. We get to make major impact. There's a member out of New York that told me a story. She worked for a very big financial services company, and high achiever and so many things. But she said, John, she's fractional now. On my best day, on my best day, I might have moved the needle 0.5%. I'm like, it's just not there, right? I'm just a gear. I'm just a cog in the wheel, and I'm good at what I do. And so she wasn't feeling very fulfilled, right? She finished the day and got her paycheck, but she wasn't making the impact. Here she goes fractional. She's like, now on my best day, I'm helping my client or clients like make major moves forward. They're going 10, 20, 30% over a year, right? Making big gains, and that's impact. And we love that. And that's kind of what we always want and are worthy of. The other fulfillment part of our fractional is we make time for health, our physical and mental self-care. Like I said, the fractional schedule is not the corporate schedule, and it opens up time for health, mental and physical, and space and thinking and those sort of things. And that's very, very fulfilling. I shared an article that a friend of mine shared with me yesterday. I thought it was great. There was a study done about the power of walking. And the idea is you can be working and really focused on what you're doing and then go finish that PowerPoint, or you could set it down and go for a 1-hour walk. They did a study and found that the contribution of the worker who took the walk was far greater than the contribution of the person who ground through the rest of the day. And that tells us something. That's very fulfilling, right? So fulfillment is a big part of fractional, and there just happens to be time and agency to do fulfilling things and do your best work. Again, you're a wisdom worker. You're not needed for the grind. You're needed for your wisdom. Wisdom comes from things like physical health and mental health and spending time with your families. We get to see our families more. The saddest, when I was in corporate and doing things for a major company, I was on airplanes all the time, and it was exciting for a little while, but I was missing out on my health, physical and mental. I did not see my children as much as I wanted. And I got to a point where I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not here on this earth. We all saw that when the pandemic hit, we had to reprioritize a little bit. And fractional allows us to do really well for who we are in the economy without having to sacrifice some of these very fulfilling things. So that is part of the reason people will pursue fractional. How to get there? Last part. How do you get there? How do you do it? So snap a little thing here, come to Frac, go to Voyager U. There's a lot of ways that you can get into the fractional world. Plenty of them, right? We're just one. Voyager U is just one. Frac is just one. There's this group out of New York called Fractionals United. I love them. They're trying to help. You can go talk to other companies that place fractionals, whether that's digitally through like an Upwork or directly through a company that does that. I don't train that. We don't train that. We believe that the strongest position for you as a fractional is one-to-one relationships with your clients. Ultimately, that's the best scenario. Clients want that and you want that. First of all, the money, that's where the money is best. Secondly, you can do it. Like sales and fractional isn't sales as you think about it. It's mostly networking and connecting and some other things. But so you can get there without having an intermediary if you take the coursework or engage in it. So, but anyway, the whole idea is you have to learn, right? You have to do what you did today and sort of understand what these dimensions are and think through them. But come to Frac, go to Voyager, start talking to other people that are fractional. You can get there too. At least you can learn about it, which is what we've done today. I just jammed a keynote and a 3-hour lecture on fractional that I give once a month into, 40 minutes or so. So that was, I'm tired. But that is an eye-opener, right? And I wanted to share that today. That's my partner, Jason. I'm more social than he is. He likes to say that he's kind of the chief educator, but I'm going to close with this. Making the claim that the future is fractional is big. I know that. We are challenging norms. We are breaking with convention. We are daring to explore a new path. And I wouldn't say the future is fractional if it isn't already happening, if it isn't already moving with the momentum and at the rate it currently is. It would be too boisterous of a claim. And I'm not doing so to say full-time goes forever, even though it dies away. What I'm saying is those norms need to be broken on behalf of the people. We cannot sacrifice so much of ourselves for the corporate good. We are a society of people, not a society of businesses. So this is why I say that. We're running up against the status quo, and that's a good thing. We're looking at the Model T as opposed to the horse. So the reason I am so passionate about it is I think kind of what Kurt Warner says, who you are is amazing. And there's a way through the fractional channel to really bring that into the economy and work with.
Oops, John, you're freezing up. I don't know if that's a problem on your end or on mine. I hope everybody else is still there. So you're hearing me. Somebody says I don't hear him either. John, we may have lost you. Oh, let's see if you come back here. There we go. You're back.
Did it all go?
Yeah, you froze up and we lost you in the last minute or two there, and everything was frozen, but you're back now. Your slide is down, but we can see and hear you just fine.
Oh, I froze up. That's not good. In the last minute or two.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall what you were saying right at the end.
A couple of things that I was saying in the last minute or two, and I apologize for that, or Zoom apologizes for that.
That's right.
Is one, hopefully this was educational and it opened the curtain on what fractional is. Two, you can continue to pursue this. There's a lot of channels for you to do so. You can come to Frac, you can go to Voyager U, you can talk to other fractionals. You can reach out to me. My hope is that the awesomeness that you are finds a way to really get into the economy in a fractional way and really take off. So that's why I'm here, and that's what I'm passionate about. So that's probably what I covered in the last minute or two.
bet. You know, what you talk about makes obviously a ton of sense for leadership roles, but it's practical in many cases for people that are in individual contributor roles as well, isn't it? Can you talk maybe a little bit about that?
Yeah, it certainly has become that. It sort of started out in leadership roles. You know, a CEO is like, I'm not doing the finance anymore. I need a finance leader. Or I'm not doing the sales anymore. I'm going to need a sales leader. But now it's coming out in individual contributor roles quite a bit. And it's interesting. I think people have grasped that it works for leadership roles. So they're like, well, why wouldn't I continue with this? I don't need a leader of operations, for example, but I need someone really smart at this individual contributor place. I want their wisdom. I want their brain. I want their ability to see around the corners, not necessarily leadership, but this fractional model really works out well for us. So yeah, it's starting to touch far beyond the leadership roles. It started in leadership, and that's great, and it'll continue to grow in other areas. There are people that argue that.
Whoops. It looks like we lost you again, John. I don't know if it's a Zoom problem or a connection problem on your end. We'll wait just another second here and see if he clicks back in. Oh, that's disappointing. I think we lost him. Oh, coming back. Yep, you were frozen again, and you're back. Yeah, I'm not sure if it was a Zoom problem or connection problem otherwise, but glad you're back. You were just explaining how an organization might want that experienced wisdom in that individual contributor role.
Totally. Happening a lot. It's happening a lot.
I have been a recruiter for 36 years, and back I was late 90s. I was doing recruiting for IT consulting, and you know, in the 90s during the .com boom, people were getting promoted and leading projects very quickly, and often they weren't experienced enough yet, and so there were a lot of projects that kind of went down the tubes back then. But most companies at the time were growing so quickly that they could absorb those costs, you know. And then all of a sudden we hit 2000, 2001, and I was getting a lot more requests from organizations that, you know, we want somebody that's been around the block a few times and can foresee what issues are going to come up, and so that we're not just flushing all this money on bad projects. And so all of a sudden, you know, for a while there, that that experience and age and wisdom was very valued. And then, you know, things have ebbed and flowed again over the years, but it's when things get a little tougher, that experience becomes a lot more valuable to organizations.
It does, and things are tough. You know, those charts I showed in the middle, it looks like that's hurting the worker, right? And it is. It's hurting businesses. Businesses trying to recruit right now, it is so hard. And working on their culture and working on, it didn't just affect the worker, right? The businesses are suffering the effects of this rusty model as well. Like, yes, shareholder value's up and there's a lot of money being made. It's staying with 1% of the world. But the businesses are like, oh my God, what have we done? No one wants to work for us. If they work for us, they're going to leave us tomorrow. And it's the dynamics are bad all the way around. And so it's good that we leave that, right? It's good that we get ourselves into a situation where everybody is valued and it's a collective effort, not a lot of effort with very little gain for most people, including the businesses.
You know, I think the fear for a lot of people in this is, you know, can I really find those clients that I can put, you know, 2 or 3
You
or 4
want me to talk about
together?
that?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Yep. One of the biggest questions there's at FRAC, I'm going to talk about it a lot. Here's a couple of little nuggets I'll give you. One, really important. Forget what you think and everything you know about sales. Just start there. Start there. Honest to God, forget it. Don't think CRMs. Don't think I have to go press the flesh with 30 people a week. Don't think you have to go sell and pitch. None of that works. It doesn't work. This is a referral-based industry. which means you need to be referable, which means you need to be nice and authentic and a giver and a helper. These are things that really, really matter. That's how business comes your way. It is not transactional. It's relationship. And that's something we can all do, right? So go read the book, The Go Giver by Bob Burg and John Mann. Great book. Get yourself anchored in what we used to call soft skills: giving, contribution, helping. There's other dimensions that we pick apart in our training. We call build yourself a hive. 10 people that you help and help you on this journey. And there's deliberate actions you can take. But the idea is the referrals is where it comes from, for the most part. So lean into that. And that's not sales. That's being a good human. But referrals don't happen without effort. You still have to do work. Jack Canfield said this great thing in a book I read by his last year. He said, in life, work is required. Suffering is not. We don't have to suffer to be fractional. Like suffer. A lot of people, it's only 20% of us in the world are extroverts. I'm one of those. The rest are not extroverts, right? So, and so sales is suffering for 80% of the population, right? Don't do it. Don't suffer. Just be authentic, give, and take the boot camp. You'll learn a lot more. Come to Frac, you'll learn a lot more. But biz dev is it's not what you think, and that's a good thing. The Go Giver will get you start on a really, really good path.
Somebody else referred that book to me. I need to go pick it up, but it is absolutely true that when you go into every conversation with an idea of, how can I be of value to this person versus just trying to get something from them, you create an entirely different perception, and people are much more willing to help you and point you in the right direction.
The world starts to work on your behalf. Yeah,
absolutely. No question. John, terrific information. I hope that people were able to get some nuggets out of there to really kind of rethink their careers. I think so many times we get stuck in this one paradigm that this is the only way to earn a living, and getting out in front. I have my kids are all grown, and there's I've got 2 engineers, I've got a project manager and a nurse, and they're all in traditional jobs. But I constantly talk to them about, be thinking about how you can create a living for yourself without having to go to work in a traditional way for an employer, and I think the more we can get creative like that, the world will change, and it is changing dramatically, but
changing a lot. Yeah, and you have to really focus on the stuff that really matters. Health, wealth, health though first, right? Physical and mental health. None of this matters unless you have your health. And so you have to start acting in those directions. And the idea that, well, if I earn enough money, I can be healthy, that's not good. That's the reverse. That's the inverse. There's another great book I can recommend before I go, and that is The Habit of Grateful by Christine Newell. Again, this traditional sales has been replaced with a habit of gratitude. And I know it sounds soft and woo-woo, and I wouldn't say it if it doesn't work. A habit of grateful. We all get the idea of being grateful. We all understand gratitude, but literally practicing gratitude day in and day out is basically biz dev for you. And that sounds weird, but it's true.
So before we got on, you recommended another book to me too, and now I've got a whole reading list I got to get to. You gave me homework.
Yeah. Well, read, right? Learn. Life is a learning effort. So be in a constant state of learning, and life will turn things in your direction.
Absolutely. John, thanks so much. Really appreciate all that. And how can people find Voyager U? What do you have the website for them? Because it's
if you go to voyageru.com, Harry, I sent you this PDF. You can send it out to everybody on this call if you want to. Or post it on your website. Yeah,
it'll be, I'll post it, and I'll describe that here in a moment, but we have a YouTube channel. This webinar will be on our YouTube channel before the end of the day, and I'll have it in the description there.
Yeah, and there's a QR code right there for Frac. You can go to Voyager University. We post our calendar of activities, and we post our boot camps on there. So all sorts of ways. If you just go there and read, You'll get a condensed version of what we talked about today. So
You
lots
know,
of ways to continue.
it just occurred to me that, you know, we kind of make assumptions that people know what Voyager U is all about, but I don't think you ever mentioned it really.
Yeah.
Can you talk,
I
what
should have
do
done
they
my
get out of
intro a
that?
little
What
bit
is it?
better. Yeah. So going in reverse. Wah, 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 wah. Hi, my name is John Arms. So I created Voyager U as a training ground for people to go fractional and businesses that hire fractional. I created it. I wrote with Jason, I wrote the education planning, wrote a lot of the models and templates for the fractional professional practice, and have just decided to assign myself the guruship that the industry needs, so that you all and me and everybody else can benefit from this wonderful new model, and businesses can benefit from it, and we can gain as a society from it. So that's what I do. That's my passion.
Terrific. Thanks again, John. And I'll make sure that the information is posted so people can find you and hopefully get plugged into Voyager U to figure out how to change their own career paradigm.
Yeah, exactly. Find me on LinkedIn.
Terrific.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you
for today and all that you do.
Appreciate that. With that, I want to do a quick overview of everything that we have available for you through Crossroads, so that you can take advantage of other ways to help with your job search, whether it's fractional or otherwise. But we have everything we do is volunteer led. I volunteer to lead it, and we have 42 people that volunteer in different ways, and it makes it everything free for you. Let me share my screen here. I got a number of things I'll just run through here in a couple of short few minutes, and why am I having a hard time for share screen? And then you can, here we go. You can take advantage of things. So just for participating in this webinar today, when you registered online, you hopefully provided us your mailing address. If you haven't received one of these yet in the past, from previous time you've attended one of our webinars, you'll get one in the mail for free. It's a How Long, O Lord, How Long? It's a devotional specifically for people that are unemployed, and for those who love them. But it's really terrific in terms, there's an index on the back, and you can kind of look up, what am I struggling with right now? What emotional or spiritual or challenges am I facing? And it'll direct you to specific devotionals to discuss that. And so it's a tremendous resource. I'm grateful for Dale Kreinkamp, who wrote the book, that shares it with us. We buy those from him and send them out to you for free. So that's a free gift from us, and I hope it's a blessing to you. Everything that we do with Crossroads is on our website, mncrossroads.com. You've probably been there to find information about this webinar today, but it has all the details and schedules of everything we offer. And there's a number of different things that we have. So there's different events, resources, and a job board that a number of companies locally know what we do. And they know that great people participate in Crossroads, and so they post positions at their organizations. And so, you know, it's not as populated, obviously, as Indeed.com or LinkedIn, but there's a lot of good positions, wide variety of types of roles. And so check it out regularly and see what gets posted there, and if anything might make sense for you. But check out the website, peruse the different resources available there, and I'll describe what some of those are. When we meet in person, there's actually 3 sites around the Twin Cities that we have meetings at, so that you can find something near you. Right now, we're only meeting in person on the first Thursdays of every month in Eden Prairie at Grace Church. And so that'll be coming up in a couple of weeks here, and I encourage you to join us there. But otherwise, we also meet on the second Thursdays in Woodbury. However, right now it's online only, and a webinar like you participated in today. Details are on the website. And then the third week of each month, we would meet in Arden Hills, but right now that's online only as well. But you can see all the details of what the presentations are, what are webinars, what's in person on the website on the seminars page. So check that out and participate as much as you can. On a weekly basis, there's a number of different ways you can get plugged in as well. And so one of the most helpful and effective things for your job search is just networking, getting a chance to interact with others, to get contacts and leads and companies that you might not be aware of otherwise, and to be able to help. Wes Tang and Wes Roper, we call them Wes 1 and Wes 2, lead that group every Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. It's on a Zoom meeting online, not a webinar setup, but rather a meeting, so you can see each other and engage more. And they make sure everybody walks out with something each week, but they really live by the premise of give before you get. So the more you can help others are willing to help you as well. And it's a great way to get encouragement as well, and just connecting with other people that are in the same boat. We have one-on-one coaching available. So if you want to talk to one of our volunteers about your resume, about an upcoming interview, maybe to do some mock interview practice, or just talk through any aspect of your job search, whether it's networking or anything else, you can sign up on the form online. One of our volunteers will reach out to you and set up either a Zoom meeting or a phone call, and you can talk through your situation with them. And you can take advantage of that anytime you'd like, as often as you'd like. And so it's all the details for that are online as well. As you probably have already seen for yourself, is that this process of a job search can be an emotional roller coaster. And so the ups and downs can be draining. And I think just having that spiritual support can be so helpful and satisfying. So I'm so grateful. We have a team of people that love to pray for you. They pray for the ministry of Crossroads overall, but if you have a specific prayer request, find our the page on our website. You can put that in and they'll pray for you specifically. If you feel like you need a little more encouragement and hope along those lines from a spiritual perspective, we have Soul Care, where we have some counselors that are willing to meet with you maybe once a week or so for a while to just kind of help you through this process. And so check out all the details online and take advantage of that as well. The meat and potatoes, where you can get the most in-depth and ongoing help for your job search, is through our online classes. We have small group classes. We have a new one that starts every month. It's an 8-week class that covers every area of successful job search strategy. And so we start with attitude and getting into the right mindset and perspective for your job search so that you can present yourself as positively as possible. We do some assessments. We talk a lot about networking and targeting companies. We go through resumes in terms of what's most effective and how to create a resume that's going to potentially get you better results. We talk about interviewing skills and negotiating and selecting and so much more. But I think, and the content is terrific, and I think it can really give you a lot more confidence that you're doing the right things for your job search. But I think equally important is that weekly light accountability and encouragement and moral support to give you more energy for the next week, and just getting that support to know that you're not on an island by yourself. So both of those are equally important. And then throughout the 8 weeks, we also talk about God's perspective of your job search in your life. And I think that is so critically important too, those bigger picture questions in your life. So as I mentioned, we have new online classes starting monthly. There's going to be one coming up here in October. See the website for details, and you can send an email to register for that. So encourage you to take advantage of it. It's a great way to stay plugged in and get, as I said, the content that's going to help you, but the encouragement you need along the way as well. We have a LinkedIn group that I really encourage you to take advantage of. If you just type MN Crossroads Career Network in the search box in LinkedIn, you'll find us, and request to be a member there, and you'll get approved. But there's a ton of great information that gets posted there, including what's our upcoming events, and some recruiters post jobs in there, and there's a number of other pieces of information. But I think equally important is, or more important even, is we have over 2,500 members in there that have participated in Crossroads, get the value of networking. Most of the vast majority of those, overwhelming majority, have landed in new jobs and are staying in the group in order to be able to give back to others, to help others in their networking process. And so you can look through the members and see, are there people that are working at companies that you're interested in pursuing? And if so, reach out to them and ask them, tell them you're participating in Crossroads, and would they be willing to talk and provide any advice or insight for you, and maybe potential referrals in their organization. And so take advantage of the Crossroads group on LinkedIn to be able to get some help. But then after you land in your job, stay in the group and be willing to be of help to others as well. And so that's one way you can give back by being available. As I mentioned earlier, we have a YouTube channel, and if you put MN Crossroads Career Network in the YouTube search box, you'll find us there. And all of our webinars get posted on there. So if you want to review this webinar or see any of our previous ones, you can do that anytime. Skip Nelson, who also leads some of our webinars, he always jokes about the fact that you might want to curl up with your partner on a Friday night with some popcorn and watch YouTube webinars of Crossroads meetings. Might not be the most exciting thing to do with your partner, but it's available for you there, so you can get a ton of good information and kind of review things that you may have missed or that things that you have seen as well. Check it out, MN Crossroads Career Network on YouTube. As additional resource, Thrivent, they have just been tremendous for us. They provided Crossroads with financial support. There are people from Thrivent that volunteer in different ways, and they've been just a great partner for us for quite a long time now, for several years. And part of that is they put together a series of 3 webinars for financial considerations during job transition. These are not sales presentations. They're truly just informational to help you through this process. You can find the details on our website, but it talks about, how to think about your budget in a different way when you're not earning an income, maybe what to do with your 401k plans, what are market conditions, what does that mean for you as you're going through this transition. And so check out the details on the website for that and take advantage of them. There's, as I said, 3 webinars a month, and they're really helpful. As I mentioned earlier, there are actually 42 people that volunteer with Crossroads in one way or another, and I'm grateful for every one of them, because all the different things we offer can't be done by 1 or 2 people. And so I just want to acknowledge them, because everybody is, as I say, a volunteer. Nobody is getting paid. They each bring expertise and different perspectives that are incredibly helpful to others, and it helps us make sure everything gets done. They just get satisfaction out of being able to help others, and they have a heart to help you through this process. So I'm grateful for all the people involved. If you don't have a church home, I encourage you to visit one of our churches on a Sunday morning. They're all meeting in person, but also stream online. You can find out details at woodburylutheran.org, northheights.church, and grace.church. And, I think having that spiritual community and support there and growing in your relationship with Christ is critically important. So I encourage you to get plugged in if you aren't already in a good church. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing here, but I hope this morning was worthwhile and helpful for you. I'm glad you joined us, and I hope that you participate in other Crossroads events coming up. Our next meeting will be in person at Grace Church Thursday morning at the first week of October, and hope to see you there. Let others know about the resources and take advantage of as much of it as you can. Thanks, and have a great day. And if I can figure out how to get out, here we go. Have a great week.